A warm welcome to all of you here. And if I look across the room here, hopefully all of you are foodies, because this is what this is going to be about. Then from my side, a warm welcome to Jeremy and Jacqui, which over the years, like we discussed this evening prior to this, bumped into each other at functions and what have you. And Jeremy is a brand name in our home because for many years, obviously, you had him on the radio. And then we'll get to the book when that came out, and we'll discuss that a bit later. Jeremy, Jacqui, once again, welcome to the UJ. It's really a privilege for us to have you here and to discuss your book. And this is what this is going to be about this evening. Now, I was told to read the details about the authors, and I told the lady I'll do it my way. I'm going to start with saying Jacqui Mansfield is a former host of the Rude Awakening breakfast show on 94.7, and I think that is where Jeremy became a household name to all of us. And those of you that followed him on the radio in those years very quickly my wife and myself, got so interested when he started speaking about him and Jacqui going away and cooking up a storm. And then, lo and behold, we had Zhoozsh, Faking It, coming out, which is what we're going to discuss tonight. I'm going to immediately go over to Jeremy and Jacqui, but I'm going to start off by asking Jeremy, when they decided to do this book, how was it possible for, and now I'm speaking as an academic, because we have to do this every day, how was it possible from going from this to the book that landed on the table? Jeremy.
Peter, thank you very much, and thank you for the invite on behalf of Jacqui and I. It's wonderful to be here at UJ, to be part of the library gathering. The writer in the family is Jacqui. She had previously brought out a book under her maiden name, which created an entire genre in South African non-fiction. For years and years, Jacqui got very irritated every time we went into a South African bookstore, and all she saw on the bookshelves in non-fiction were stories about the then Rhodesian War. And
You're really showing our age now, huh?
Yeah, this is true. And she kept saying to me, you know, we're going to lose the stories of the South African border war in Namibia and Angola. And I said to her, well then, don't stop complaining. Do something about it. Write it. And eventually Jacqui did. And she put together an anecdotal non-fiction book called An Unpopular War, which was the forerunner, and most publishers didn't want to touch it because it was a very contentious subject in the 90s. Strake eventually published the book. I think it sold, and the librarians will tell you what a usual non-fiction book sells in South Africa. I don't know what a bestseller is these days. I think it's about 3,000? Jacqui's book, which she wrote under her maiden name, called An Unpopular War, has sold just over 60,000 copies.
And at this point,
And ladies and gentlemen, that needs a hand.
for those who don't know, this is my husband and agent. I think we're here to talk about Zhoozsh, so I'm going to pull him back on track. Thank you so much.
No, it was just that the question was, how do you take something from there to there? And I don't know, because I'm not a writer. I just
I think it's 95% procrastination, and then you get down to it.
Okay, how did it start?
Zhoozsh. Okay, at first I have to say a lot of people don't know how to pronounce the word zhoozsh, so that's how you say it. And we've had a lot of people going Zhoozsh, Zhoozsh, Zhoozsh. It's Zhoozsh. I was astounded to discover that Zhoozsh is actually a Johannesburg word, a truly Joburg word. I thought it was a Cape Townian word, but it's not. It's a Johannesburg word, which we only found out when we said to the editors and all the people in Cape Town that were handling the book that this is the title, and they were one of those, they were the people that would phone going, what is it? We got your email, but what is a Zhoozsh? Zhoozsh? It's Zhoozsh. What do you mean? You're from Cape Town. Like, how can you not know what Zhoozsh is? They don't. It's a Johannesburg word.
I mean, you go to Cape Town and everyone walks around at a dinner party going, oh my God, look how zhuzh she looks in that dress.
Exactly. But it ain't a Cape Town word. Yeah. It's ours. And a friend of mine who's quite a wordsmith, she went into the history of it to find out where Zhoozsh originated from. Because I thought maybe it was a Jewish word, but it isn't. It's a Johannesburg word. And it comes from...
Turn of the century?
Yeah, turn of the century, when people did not have a lot of...
Sorry. Turn of the last century. That's how old we are.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. There was a big mining industry here. A lot of people lived in Johannesburg. A lot of the streets were divided according to a trade. So if you needed something repaired, you went here. If you needed clothing repaired, you went to this one particular area of Johannesburg. And most of the tailors were Jewish. So people who couldn't afford to buy new suits, new clothing, but they needed to get their clothing improved upon or repaired, went to the Amazjus, the Jewish.
Amazjus.
Thank you.
Amazjus.
So. So that's actually where the word originated. It's kind of a twist on Jewish, the Amazjus.
Yeah, Amazjus.
Thank you very much.
And it really means, by definition, to take something and enhance it.
I still think it just sounds so much better when you just say Zhoozsh. But yeah, so that's how we came up with the name. And yeah, and just another Cape Townians know what the word where it comes from. But the book actually began on a Sunday morning. I can remember it very well. We were lying in bed, and Jeremy said, I said, God, no wonder you wrote a book. Quite unusual. I said, I'd go and make something for breakfast because I don't cook. I'm not the cook in the family. I write. Jeremy's the cook. And I waffled off into the kitchen, and I opened the fridge, and I looked at it like, you know how you expect ingredients to go, me, mix me with this, mix me with that. Looked at the fridge, nothing spoke to me, closed the fridge, opened the cupboard doors, looked around, nothing did anything, closed it, went back to bed, and I said, there's nothing to eat in the house, I'm afraid, there's no food. Jeremy said, that's impossible, there's got to be something. No, I looked in the fridge and the cupboards, there's nothing. So he went off to the kitchen, disappeared, clink, 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 busy cooking sounds. Next thing, he comes into the bedroom with this tray, and Jeremy's very big on presentation. It's not just what you're eating. It's got to, because it's got to please your eyes before it pleases your palate. And he came back into the bedroom with this tray of beautiful, it was really just toast and scrambled eggs, but he'd done them in like a little bowl and was upside down with chopped green stuff from the garden. It was just amazing.
Okay, wait. Before she embarrasses herself any further, okay. Basically, it was toast, and all you do is you take the ramekin, you take the centerpiece of the toast out of it, you scramble your eggs, you push them into the ramekin, you turn it upside down, you chop up parsley, a bit of parsley on top, a bit of sweet chili sauce on top of that, and a rose petal on the side. It's that simple. But
Yeah,
Jacqui
right,
stands and looks at a fridge and can't see eggs, bread, butter, sweet chili sauce, and parsley.
Yeah, it's like a maths equation, A plus B equals C equals D. It doesn't come together for me. And this just looked amazing because I can do scrambled eggs, but it looks like scrambled eggs and a child's made it. And I said, you know what, you should really do a cookbook. You should really do a cookbook because you just know how to take something ordinary like scrambled eggs on toast and just zhuzh it up. You should do it. And that's what we should call it, zhuzh. So that's how it all began. And then as an absolute marriage tester, we wrote a cookbook together. Just don't write books together. We had friends who said the only thing it can compare to maybe is building a house together and choosing tiles and towels and paint colors, and it's a It's tough.
We were fortunate, though, in that we tend to travel fairly extensively. And whenever cooking to me is a way of relaxing.
Madness.
But when we're on holiday, I love going and tasting street foods and finding out what people cook where around the world. And there is something about sitting on a little plastic chair that's made for a child on the side of the street, and your legs are around your ears, and you're given a bowl of something. You don't know what it is, and you're in the middle of Vietnam, and you start eating it, and you go, jeepers, okay, this is good. But I wonder what would happen if you did this, instead of with noodles, if you did it with, maybe you take a mashed butter beans, and you serve it with mashed.
You do realize not everybody thinks that.
No, okay, but that's my way my head works sometimes. But the problem with trying to work recipes, and Peter will know this because he's done a lot of this sort of stuff as well. Trying to work recipes when you're traveling is very, very difficult because I don't cook by recipe book. I cook by feel. So I take a handful of parsley and a bit of chives and maybe this and that, and I cook by feel.
And it's difficult because often people don't speak English, so they're just pointing at what the ingredients are,
Yeah.
let alone the quantities.
And you don't know what they are and what the quantities are. But, what is a handful of parsley? You've got to come home and take one and then weigh it and go, okay, it's 10 grams of parsley.
This fits in with the marriage breaker because the very first recipe was one of Jeremy's phenomenal dishes, which we called aftershock salmon. So it's a way that he cooks salmon, but he cooks it with some green stuff. I don't know what the green stuff is, some leafy stuff. So I'm sitting there now like a secretaress,
Yeah, and I'm
waiting for Jeremy to give me the first recipe.
So I
I'll
say,
type
take a
it.
piece of salmon with the
How
skin
big?
on.
What weight? What size?
It's a piece of salmon. You buy your piece of salmon with the skin on.
How many grams is that?
I don't know
Then it was-
how many grams it is. It's
This
that
was,
big.
this was the first 5 minutes of the recipe book, and I remember thinking we're not
Yeah.
even gonna get out of the starter section of this book.
Yeah.
Not together anyway.
But that's how it really came about. And it evolved that way because it was a collection, essentially it was a collection of recipes that either we had picked up or I had changed or we had got from friends or family. It was a collection of recipes that had stories behind them.
And the most important thing, the 4-letter word everyone should know, easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, so nothing complicated, because there's nothing worse than getting a cookery book and it says, take half a teaspoon of, I can't even think, what are they, herbs or spices or something you've never even heard of, and you think, okay, it's something that's not very common, so you're going to spend 80 Rand to get a little thing like this, and you're never ever going to use it again. So one of the things we had to do for the book was, it's got to be something that any South African can find anywhere, nothing that's difficult. You've got to go to some imported deli and get some unpronounceable what.
And that's where Jacqui, excuse me, pulled the whole book together, really, because it was these recipes which she then molded to anecdotes that we had, whether it was something about travel or something that had happened in our lives or individually.
Yeah, I think that's what made it a successful book, because it kind of jumped out of the classification of a cookery book. And it's the sort of book that you could read in bed, because the anecdotes, every recipe had a story. So there was a story to go with the recipe that you didn't have to be in the kitchen going 3 grams of this and 80 grams of salmon. You could just read the story, and most of them were funny. So there was something, and also maybe a travel story, but it became a cookbook that wasn't just about cooking. And also it was so easy. What was so funny is, I don't cook at all. I don't like cooking. Jeremy cooks. He enjoys cooking. And this book went on to win several awards.
Well, if the book was released and it became an overnight success, I think the initial print run was something like 7,000, and those were sold out in the pre-order, and then they reordered, and it's sold about 30,000. And then they said to us that it had won the best South African cookbook.
Yes. Yeah, we got a phone call saying, oh, you've won a Gourmand Award as the best South African cookbook. And we said, oh, that's amazing. What is a Gourmand Award? So yeah, it was the best South African cookbook, best something to do with media in South Africa, and easiest cookbook or something, which is great because that was the purpose. And we went off to London to compete in the Gourmand Awards. Thank heavens we didn't have to cook anything, because then they would have known we were absolute frauds.
Yeah.
And it came third best in the world, which even we could understand was quite extraordinary. Thank you.
Hang on. You know what it did? This is
The only thing that matters to Jeremy.
This is even more important than coming third in the world. It beat Jamie Oliver.
But yeah, we've been very, very fortunate to have success with that cookbook, and to travel and share our stories and share our recipes and everything that's easy to do, and also to cook for some very special people. You cooked for very special people.
One of the recipes in the book, excuse me, one of the recipes in the book came about as a result of a request many, many years ago, when all of you who are students were still in primary school.
Just don't say the year you matriculated. Everyone will just...
No, they'll all go, geez, my father wasn't even born then. Many years ago, we were talking, I was still on 702 at the time, and we were talking one afternoon about Mr. Mandela's press conference that he'd just done the day before. And I said on air, you know what, I should actually, oh no, I know what it was.
Naomi
Campbell
yeah.
came out to South Africa, and Tata said to Naomi Campbell, he thinks, because Mr. Mandela always had an eye for beautiful women.
He did, yeah.
And he said to Naomi Campbell, I should adopt you as my honorary granddaughter. And I went on air the next day and I said, you know what, I'm offended by that. She's not even a South African. And if anyone should be adopted as his honorary child, I should be one. Because I can say, if he's not available for a press conference, I can go to the press conference on his behalf.
If it's a telephone conference, maybe,
Yes.
but not in person.
So I got a phone call from his daughter Zenani. And Zenani said, Jeremy, I think it's a very good idea. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adopt you as my son.
It's coming out.
So I was adopted as Zenani's son, and officially I am still a two-feathered prince in the Swazi royal family. Because at that stage she was Zenani Mandela Dlamini. And I then became Tata's honorary grandson. The eldest grandson, yeah. And I'm still waiting for my cattle. I'm still fighting with Mandla about that.
He's worth.
But my favorite recipe in the first book was Zhoozsh, the second one was Zhoozsh faking it. In the first book was Madiba's chicken curry, because Madiba always used to go on about Kapteins, which was a restaurant in downtown Joburg. When he was a practicing lawyer downtown Joburg, he used to go to lunch at Kapteins and used to have their chicken curry. And I said to the one day, I said, Tata, you have not tasted chicken curry until you've had my Eastern Cape nkoko. Yeah. And I got the request from Houghton saying that Tata wanted the chicken curry that day. So, and I've got it, we're running out of time, but I need to tell the one story about making this curry, okay? So I make the chicken curry in a big pot, and I wrap the chicken curry in a towel, a tea towel. You know those ones, red and white stripes and all that. I wrap this chicken curry in it. And we arrive at the house at Houghton, and instead of going through, we went to the back entrance, and instead of going through security in the car, because then it becomes a whole palaver. They've got to check the car, you've got to sign in, and you declare things, and wada. So instead of going through the gate, about about 20 meters from the gate, there still is a big oak tree that overhangs the street. So I parked underneath there. And I got out of the car, and as I was getting out the car, at the bottom of the road, we saw the BMWs, the 3 BMWs, because in those days, Tata only had 3 BMWs. There wasn't 11 like President Zuma has. The 3 BMWs came around the corner, and I picked up this pot of curry wrapped up in this towel. And now I started walking towards the back gate of Tata's residence. And the next thing, the front BMW speeded up, and the lights came on, and it went boom, and stopped right in front of me. And I'm standing there like this with this huge pot of curry wrapped in this towel. And I can't remember the captain's name. Young guy. He stepped out, he opened his door, he stepped out, and he looked at me, and he recognized me, and he went, "Hey, Jeremy, hi man, so hey, Jens Andon." And I suddenly thought to myself, how stupid am I? You're walking towards Mr. Mandela's house, carrying a pot with this huge towel wrapped around it like this. What are they going to think? I could have been taken out by a policeman over a chicken curry. But anyway, he enjoyed it. And we've been very fortunate in that way. We've been to some beautiful places, we've met some beautiful people. And this is a man who will agree with me. That's what cooking is all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine these two in the kitchen? A recipe, or trying it out. Now, I want to tell you where I come from. I married a professional chef. My wife is a chef. I'm into photography, and very often she asks me to do some pictures and stuff for her, and I know exactly what they say. I know how close it gets to a divorce. Because thank God for digital cameras. Because have you seen a woman that makes you take a milk tart 292 pictures of? So, I don't know if you pick up the vibe where I'm sitting here. It must have been a hell of a journey. That's all I can say. A journey that we enjoy because we have those recipe books on our table. Prior to us starting, I told them I have very dear friends in Pretoria, and they are campers. But what did you say, Jeremy? What's the word? They camp?
Glamping.
Camping, yeah. When you don't do rough camping, you kind of have your feather duvet, somebody else to light the fire. That's glamping.
Now, my dear friend normally says, if I must have braai vleis 2 evenings in a row, hell will break loose. So when they go clamping, Jeremy and Jacqui's book go with, and when they get back, we are intrigued to see what those people do. So to the two of you, it's always so wonderful to hear, and in the culinary world where I'm part of, it's an exciting world. We fight, we deliberate, we do a hell of a lot of things. But then you have an outcome like these books, and it's amazing. And I really want to tell you, for us, School of Tourism and Hospitality, where we come from, it's a legacy that you've left there, because what is so good about these books is exactly what they say. It's easy. Now, I dare you, people here that don't have that book, go and buy that book. That book will not sit on your shelf. It's a book to do.